G'day champions, we've got a silver face twin reverb here. It's been modified over the years, sort of half jobs here and there of restoration. You can see there the orange caps, that's an instant giveaway. And all sorts of piggyback stuff going on. Word has it that when Mudhoney come out, I'm not sure when, in a month or two, they're going to be using this amp. So we'd better do a bloody good job, eh? Because I like Mudhoney. So in no particular order, the phase inverter has been changed to black face values. The normal channel has been sort of converted to like a lead channel. You can see the 220K plate loads there, and some different value caps. This particular one didn't have a split cathode on V1, but they have modified it so that it does. You can see the extra wire going to the bypass and cathode resistor there. The bias pot has been modified with all these caps hanging off it to be a overall bias control instead of the balance that would normally be found on these. The cap values for the bias supply have also been modified. I don't know if that was just out of necessity from what they had in stock or if that was a intentional thing. The carbon composition screen grid resistors are heavily out of spec. The mains lead is looking pretty snaky, and also had the neutral fuse, so that's no good. We'll correct that. It looks pretty sad in general. They get all twisted where they exit the chassis, and they sort of bunch up on themselves, which isn't real good safety wise. You can see that. And the plugs get all corroded, and it's not the safety type with the molded end, so we might change that out as well. There is a big bend to the chassis. You can probably make out there. That whole control panel is copped some pretty heavy pressure on the front of the knobs likely, and the whole front of the chassis is bent in, so we'll see if we can gradually straighten that out, starting from one end or starting from the outside, work our way in. There's some serious resistors there in the tremolo circuit. I'll have to figure out what value they are, what they're supposed to be, and see if that was just the stock value but just made up out of resistors they had on hand, or if that was an intentional change as well. I'll have to see what they maybe intended to do there. There's also been a partial recap. They've arbitrarily changed cathode bypass caps and then not others. So we'll change all the ones that haven't. We'll check out the ones that have. Apparently they've been changed about 10 years ago. Some of these caps look like they might have been new old stock when they changed them out. But I don't know. I'll see if I can find a date code on there, but we'll probably rework that bias supply anyway. All the joints are just dodgy. Like fraying, dry solder joints, and just blobs of solder floating around like you often see. Those caps up the back there need changing as well. And then they haven't addressed some of the known problem points of these amps, like that resistor that cracks its solder joints there. It's starting to on that end, and then the possibility of board leakage between the bias feed resistors and the plate supply for the PI. So that's another known point of leakage, and they haven't addressed that at all. So I reckon there's probably pretty heavy leakage there, because there's a lot of grunge and crap on this board. It looks like someone has tried to clean the wax off the board, wax on, wax off, but that's resulted, probably with hot air gun, that's resulted in all the wax just running down on the chassis, and now all the valve sockets down there are covered in wax, and it's run through to the pins of the valves, so that's not good. All the grounding points on the chassis that are piggybacked onto a fixing bolt for the power transformer will be removed to their dedicated points on the chassis. There's a convenient little hole there if we want to use an eyelet, otherwise we can just solder directly to the chassis, because that's unreliable. People say it's fine, but every single one of these amps, when I undo that bolt, that solder blob just falls off. So you tell me if that's a good connection or not, especially for your safety earth there, which I've cut off because we've removed the power cord for ease of manipulation of the chassis. Now another thing I like to do to these is just lock them into 240 volts. Often these switches, you can see that the phenolic on the back of there is starting to go pretty buckled, and that's not really trustworthy for the mains connections, so I like to just terminate all the other connections and just hardwire it to 240 volts. All the front control panel wiring and components look original, albeit with their layer of grease from spraying 3 cans of whatever cleaner they used over the years to try and stop the crackling. a lot of which was probably caused by DC leaking on the board, but anyway. So yeah, I'll check all of that stuff's fine, and we'll just check everything's tight there, but I'll probably remove them to straighten that front panel, because I reckon some kind of mechanical influence may be required. So it would be easier to just push the pots back and put a straight edge on there or something like that. Yeah, you can see on these new tone stack caps here, the orange drops, either they were already second-hand caps and they had short leads, or they didn't make the cuts, so they just used the lead from the old component. Just tack soldered it, so that's not real great. You'd like to see at least a J-hook or something mechanical rather than just using solder as glue. Now this green goo here worries me a little bit. That's actually corrosion coming out of the lead there, either triggered by their choice of flux or some moisture or something. That can be conductive and can lead to arcing. So that's oozing out of, I think, that wire there. So that wire may need to be replaced, and hopefully that's the only one, or one of not many, because that can be a big problem in particularly old Voxes and stuff, where all the transformer leads are starting to ooze it, and that's right where the high voltage is. Yeah, there's also that one there which doesn't look very friendly. You see it's like a gel that comes out of the wire jacket and then just pulls up on the solder connection underneath. Now flipping the chassis over, she's in pretty good nick, it's very clean. No real sort of, you know, tobacco staining and stuff that you see over the years. But yeah, Harry half a job's been on this one, because they've replaced it with some Jamicons, tried to silicone it to the wax, which doesn't really work, and run a couple of wires. Again, it's just that really thick wire like they had from, I don't know, their garage for their trailer or something, and almost looks like mains cord for the brown, and then low voltage trailer wire or something, or auto electrician's wire or something for the positive and negative. So all of that will be changed. They've forgotten about these caps, or they're just subscribers to the don't fix what ain't broke, even if it means you can't finish the gig because your amp decides to broke halfway through a fucking show. They've done half a recap, so we're going to change all these out, throw them in the bin, or give them back to the customer in a bag. But yeah, they don't belong in this amp anymore, and they've changed the droppers to blackface values. So we'll check them for drift. They're probably fine. We'll probably just reuse them. You can see here the wax that's come out from the inside of the chassis run down onto the valve socket, and now it's filled all the pins. And looking at the valves there, you can see it's landed on the end of the valves, and it's congealed again and coated the pins, so that's not great. Not only does the wax possibly provide some intermittent connection, it also can absorb moisture from the atmosphere with its impurities in it. You can see it's like a brown gross colour, and then that can lead to leakage between pins and all sorts of stuff. Now it's got those annoying valve sockets that have the contact that's like 5mm down in the hole, and sometimes they can be pretty intermittent because they're only grabbing on the very tip of the pin, so you can barely see them down inside there. So I think they're, with the M there, I guess they're Mallory, I don't know, but they're original. There's no evidence of arcing, but they're just not my favourite socket because they only sort of grab onto the very tip of the pin, which isn't very reliable. So that's the chassis. The chassis, I know you love it when I say that. Let's have a look at the cab. Alright, so first up, it's got some pretty munted casters there. Some of them have pissed out half their balls. It's not original equipment. You can see that one's against the foot, and the one up the back there is in a completely different spot, so they've just been sort of thrown in. They're still functioning, but they're pretty stiff. Might ask if you want a new set of them on there. You've got two unlike speakers, one of which is open circuit. I think it was that one. And the other one is exhibiting ghost notes, so rubbing on the pole piece, which isn't fun. Not that kind of pole piece anyway. But the structural integrity of the cab is otherwise pretty okay. It's one of the ones with the annoying chipboard baffle, which kind of sucks, because the only way to replace it, it's It's dadoed into the side there, so the only way to replace that is literally remove it all, cut it out roughly, and then copy cut it with a router, and maybe even chisel out the remainder, and fill it with a cleat, and then mount one the more traditional way, or just build a new cab. It's probably easier. Now, the reverb tank is showing the correct DC resistance, but we're yet to see what its performance is like. I'll open up the foot switch. They like to go open circuit, or just bad solder connections. This wire just fell off when I manipulated it a little bit, so yeah, all the wiring needed to be redone anyway for the speakers. The wire's probably okay, but we'll check the integrity of the connections on the jack, the plug, sorry. These kind of connections on the reverb connectors, it's kind of par for the course. Over the years, it just gets made good enough to last for the next 5 minutes, and that happens 50 times. So we'll redo all that. We'll probably use some new connectors there. They're pretty corroded. I've got some of them in stock, or we can go the real nice Switchcraft right angle ones, which are encased, or like fully enclosed. And the only catch with them is they're like $18 each. Someone's installed the kickback legs on this. That seems to be the original equipment, including the fasteners, so that's all good. I don't think that came stock or as an option. That would have been an aftermarket, as far as I know. The grill cloth is actually not too bad. It's still pretty tight. It's got a bit of a red bead running through it there, red thread, which is don't remember seeing that on any others, so that's pretty cool. But I talked to the customer about some speaker upgrade replacements, since those ones are buggered, and he agreed once we tried a few out in store. I didn't want to power this thing on, but we had a similar Fender AB763 circuit amplifier in the shop at the time, and I plugged it in through a ET65 WGS. Love those things, and he liked them, so he committed to 2 of them. So we'll install them in the cabinet before finishing the amp off. But in the meantime, I'll get stuck into this amplifier, get my hands dirty, and you'll see some video of the process. So I'll catch you on that one, legends.